Mark Salamango, your over 40 Jiu Jitsu white belt host here. Welcome to week 9. This was my most ambitious week so far. I made it to 5 sessions this week and got workouts in on my days off as well. 2 of the Jiu Jitsu days I trained for over 2 hours. I'm learning a bit more about Jiu Jitsu specific workouts, so I'm starting to incorporate those into my off days. I will do a video on that soon. I had a great idea for a video this week, but it's going to have to wait a couple weeks because this topic came up and I wanted it to be fresh when I addressed it. On Monday, I started to chat with a purple belt. He was asking how long I've been training and how I was doing. I told him I'm starting to settle in and learn some things. I told him I had a small victory, and he said something to the effect that I should keep looking for those small victories. So thanks, Scott Atkinson, for the reminder this week. Now, there's a major truth there. When I was in high school, I joined the swim team my sophomore year. I joined because my friends were on the team and they assured me that I would figure it out. Sound familiar to anyone practicing jiu-jitsu? So the first day of swim practice, I couldn't even make it from one end of the pool to the other. I mean, I could sort of swim, but it was more like just not drowning. It was like joining the track team and only being able to crawl. But I noticed these little victories. I'd finally made it to the other side. Then I was able to survive a whole practice. Then I was able to survive a practice without resting. Then I was able to swim with the second slowest lane. Eventually I made it onto a relay team, then onto the number 1 team, and then as a captain and so on. The same thing happened when I started P90X back in the day. The little victory was making it through a workout, then making it through one without resting. Then it was doing the same amount of reps as Tony Horton and so on. It's the small victories that can help you keep going when things are tough. Now, life is hard. Swimming at a high level is tough. So is guitar, P90X, college, triathlon training, and many other things. There are a ton of examples I could give. Sometimes you just have to look a little harder. So on to jiu-jitsu. Well, I had a few nice victories this week. Let me start with some things I learned. First, in rolling with Scott, he caught me a few times in what he called no man's land. He was in open guard and I was half committed to being in tight and half committed to being outside his open guard. After he took advantage of the situation a couple times, he explained to me that I needed to either be in tight or more out of range. Because of that little tidbit, my rolls the rest of the week went much better. Another gem I learned was to really make sure I'm managing my hips better. I had a guy in side control during a roll and I was pressuring a little too far over his body. I guess it's called cross pressure. I held on for a while, but eventually he swept me. In that case, I really needed to sink back onto my hips more. Similarly, I was starting a roll and my partner pulled guard. I tried to pass and we each struggled for a bit. I decided to reset, so I postured into what I thought was a good position. The problem was my posture was a little in front of my hips. So eventually I got swept again. The lesson there was to settle a little more over my hips. I was trying to have a good sitting posture instead of a good jiu-jitsu posture. There were some other great aha moments, but I'm going to do a series on those in a couple of weeks, so I don't want to spoil the surprise. Now, maybe your little victory was that you survived a roll with someone you don't think you should have survived with, or maybe you escaped a triangle, maybe you even got a submission. There are tons of things you can look at as victories. Finally, I got a little video of a few rolls with a new white belt. The great thing about that roll was that I could teach him some things. They say you really know something when you can teach it. I was able to practice a few things through these rolls, so as always, I want to thank my teammates and rolling partners for even the smallest of victories. So here is another little roll illustration. Okay, so here I am at the top of the screen. The guy I'm going to be rolling with, so I'm on the left. The guy I'm rolling with is a 17-year-old senior in high school. He's trained for a few weeks like me. This was the first time he was at Kaizen. And he started off, I felt like he was going to try to go power, so I just wanted to get a grip and I just thought I'd work from guard to start. My roll may not even be the most interesting roll in the frame, but he starts to go for like a side control, but he gave up his head, and so I have him in a bit of a headlock right now, and my thought was once I got him there I wanted to lift my legs so I could roll him over, which for some reason actually worked. And so I was just kind of holding him there while I was trying to figure out the next thing I was going to do. And I was thinking about lots of different things here. At one point, I got a hold of his arm right here, and I was thinking something like an Americana, but it was kind of cool because I was able to bend it over my leg, his arm over my leg, and you're going to miss it here for a second, but you can see I'm kind of wrenching it over my leg, using my leg as a lever. I've never seen it done before, but it kind of worked. So I guess the cool thing about that roll was that there was a principle, and that's just arms only go a certain way, and I was able to kind of ad-lib. Again, not exactly sure what that was, but it ended up working out. Alright, so the next roll, same guy. I had a little chat with him about giving up his head, and he starts standing up, and the first thing I'm seeing is, wow, he's giving me his head again. And so I'm thinking, well, what do I do? So I capitalize on it and get him pretty quick on this one, just kind of by sinking down onto my hip a little bit. So I remind him again that it's probably not good to lead with your head like that. And okay, so we're on to our third roll. And the reason I know not to do that is because I keep getting caught with that. That's one of the problems that I have. So he kind of goes into that same position again. And I want to try to do something else. I'm thinking about some of the turtle moves that I know of getting people out of turtle. So I was thinking about going to the side and pulling his left leg toward me and kind of giving him a bump. But then I thought, well, if I can do that, then maybe I should just try to take his back. So that's kind of where I went. Now I shouldn't have been leaning forward on him like I was. If it were a blue belt or higher, I'm pretty sure I would have eaten it from there. And now I'm just trying to get a hook in. But that isn't working so great. So instead, I decide to go into side control. Now this is where I was talking about my hips. And so with this guy, it wasn't as big of an issue, but my hips should really be sunk down a lot further than they are right here. And that's what's awesome about videotaping this stuff, is you can see what you're doing and what you're doing well, what you're not doing well. I've had a lot of situations where I feel like I'm shrimping or I'm bridging or I'm doing something, and then when I video, I realize that I'm not doing it as much as I think I am. So at this point, I'm just kind of working for position, trying to think about what I'm going to do next, and I'm kind of driving my shoulder in a little bit. Just trying to get the feeling of what it feels like to be in control on the top and top side. But like I said, my hips should be way lower. I get thrown from this position a lot, and I did a couple times this week, and that was the big reason, is because I'm kind of putting cross pressure on them instead of downward pressure. So I'm trying to isolate an arm, and as I'm doing this stuff, I'm thinking about it. And the funny thing is, when I'm rolling with someone, for some reason it isn't instinctual in my head to mount. For some reason, I'm not always thinking for the mount. In this case, again, I'm just trying to get one of the arms isolated so I can go for an Americana or a Kimura or something. But then at some point it kind of triggers in my head that, well, I've been sitting here a while, not really getting anything done, so maybe I should like plan to mount. And I think that happens here in a second, right? So it was kind of an easy mount. I think he actually caught or catches one of my legs here in a second, and I end up in his half guard. So either that was me giving up a full mount, it looks like I'm full mount, and then I let him get his leg in, and so now he's got me in half guard, which is a mistake. I probably needed to get up higher under his armpits right away. And now I'm just kind of trying to navigate to a better position to pass completely. He's fighting really hard with that arm. I'm trying to learn a little bit more about when to rest and when not to rest, because I get gassed a lot in my rolls, and so I remember thinking here, okay, I'm okay right here. I don't have to move too fast. So just kind of think about what I'm going to do and do it a little more methodically. So he tries to bridge here, and that actually helped me by kicking my leg over. And once I got in, I decided, I've seen a lot of videos, and you can't see what my hands are doing, but when you're trying to move into this mount, this high mount, it's controlling the opponent's head. And so I was pulling his head toward me, and I think that's what allowed me to get my knees up higher. And that worked out pretty good. Now from here, because I'm high on his body, it was hard for him to bridge or to bump me off. And I talked to him about that afterwards, just kind of giving him a couple tips about getting into this position. At this point, I was trying to think, okay, what should I do? I got him kind of in a bad spot. I could have really gone for an armbar, but that's not something I've worked a ton on yet. Later in the week, I ended up doing that, but I ended up getting him in another Americana there. So when you don't think you had a small victory, think about this. Tony Horton, the creator of P90X, always says, just press play. It's that simple. That phrase got me motivated so many times when I knew that I was going to take a stroll in the pain cave. Some of those workouts ended up being the best ones. The fact is, you won't improve if you don't press play. Get up off the couch, go to the gym, stretch, or whatever it is you want to get better at. Even if you don't meet whatever your goal is, at least you showed up. And that is a pretty good small victory in my mind. Thanks for watching. I have lots more content planned. If you have any thoughts about your small victories or how you keep pushing play, please throw them in the comments. Also, subscribe and click the little bell icon to be notified when new content is published. If you're feeling particularly gracious, shoot me a like or a thumbs up. Thanks, we'll talk to you next week.